Welcome back to the Four Podmen, the wrestling podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions of the show are available through Anchor. And if you'd like to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at TPodmen. Joining me tonight for a review of the latest NXT Takeover in your house. As always, my brothers in arms, the podfather of the network, Ian Kelly. How are you, Ian?
All good, my man. All good.
The beef all the way from the borders of Sligo. How are we doing, Joe?
The podfather himself, I'm doing well, man.
Awesome. And obviously my hot tag partner, the D-O-double-G, who looks like he's having a good week. How are we doing, my man?
You know what? It's a shit week, but fuck it. I mean, I'm closer to the grave than the womb, so I'm not sweating it none. Do you know what I mean? All my bills die with me.
Awesome. Yeah, I said we jump on, we take a look at this. We've been reviewing the previous takeovers, and I kind of like the idea of this one, this In Your House. It's a kind of a throwback. Really enjoy the production value that NXT is producing at the moment. The production value across WWE is absolutely second to none. A number of promotions could learn from it. But I thought that first video package where you were getting a throwback to the original In Your Houses and the footage and stuff like that was excellent. And even with like Michael Hayes, Doc Hendricks and stuff like that, I just thought it was really, really cool, you know. Ian, or Joe, I should say, sorry. Overall opinions on it before we get into the matches?
It was all right. It was very short. I was actually very surprised how short it was. But it certainly wasn't bad. I would have been pissed off if I had to, a one-off pay for a pay-per-view, like. If you had to fork out 30 quid or something for it, you'd be fairly pissed off. But it was all right. Like, it was grand. I did enjoy it.
Jay?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I thought we were doing Survivor Series 88, so no, I kid.
I thought we were
I enjoyed
doing
it.
House too.
I enjoyed it. Like you said, the scene, the setup. It feels good to finally be watching a company putting out a product that actually recognizes and acknowledges that it has a past and it came from a kitsch kooky place at times, and it was fun. And again, 2 hours and 20 minutes was fucking spot on. I mean, after her AEW PTSD for 3 bleeding weeks, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I genuinely enjoyed it. I don't remember the last time I watched wrestling with a smile on my face, you know?
Yeah, I kind of felt my overall opinion. I really liked the sort of throwbacks and stuff like that, and the production value and stuff like that. But I felt it was kind of elements of it were a little bit rushed to allow those intermission-y type of segments in there that really weren't really called for, I think. And I think because of that, it kind of shortened some of the matches that probably needed a little bit more time. That was my kind of overall view of it. But we'll get into the matches anyway. We'll kick off with the 6-man tag.
Can I just say before you do, I was waiting and hoping that Todd Pettengill would come out with your one, Sally, remember, and with the nice little short haircut, and they'd make that phone call and give someone a gaff. It was just, you know what I mean? That's what I mean. Like I said, I tuned into In Your House too. I was like, who are all these modern looking people? I felt like I had just come out of a coffin.
Real estate prices are not what they were.
Yeah. It was like the old Vince McMahon coming out giving $1 million away a week, even though it was only like 10 grand here or there.
We're giving one free subscription to the network.
No, I just wanted to say I loved the production on it though. It was a real throwback for like a 90s wrestling fan, because like people always talk about the obviously the big four, and in modern times they always think of like the Vengeances and Hell in a Cell and all these kind of pay-per-views that were made, given kind of random names during the 12. What we forget is the In Your House was the fillers back in the 90s. And some of the greatest matches happened on these pay-per-views. So I think it really awakened something to me to maybe, as podmen, as we always do, is to maybe go back and deep dive at some point and look at some of the great In Your Houses that that preceded this particular one. So.
Yeah. Classics from throwaway events.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. You see, I like that. You just meant like the way you mentioned there. I kind of liked the way the minute you seen it, and it was the kitsch little fucking doorway on the entrance ramp. It was like we've been groomed for so long and so hard that every pay per view is so serious. It's like this month doom, death, hell, for the poisoning, quickening, there can only be one, death, slaughterhouse. And you're like, you know what? Brilliant. This is a little bit of fun, little throwaway fucking pay-per-view. Bit of wrestling, grand. What's the problem? Do you know what I mean? I liked that. I did like
It's
it.
a pity they didn't walk out the door, though.
I've always wanted that,
They
Joe.
should have walked out the door.
Joe, you're speaking to me ever since, like, even when I was a kid, when I was like, well, I would have been a teen, I suppose, properly within your house was starting or getting there, maybe 10 or 11. And I was always like, imagine, like, boom, 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 the door opens to and then he just closes and locks it. Make sure to lock the door so the next lad can't get out. You've got the 10 count. Boom. There's an angle. There is a heel angle if ever you heard one. A lad rushing out, getting the key, locking the door, going into the ring, asking the ref, count to 10. He's not coming.
You know, nice to see window frames as well without anybody going through them and me having to sit through 13 years of therapy before it was a thing. Do you know what I mean? It was nice not to have to undo so much fucking personal one-on-one with doctors, you know.
That's the reason you have long hair and a beard. You won't go near the barber shop.
I can't go near them, Joe. I walk across the street around them. Do you know what I mean?
And you know what? For the fans,
especially now, with them all decorated and pallets and serving whiskey for you to get your hair goes like that. That's temptation. We read about this in the good book. That's that mott with no clothes on with the fucking apple again, isn't it? You snake bastards. No, you won't do me like you've done Marty Jannetty.
It wouldn't work for you, Jay, because a haircut's about an hour and that they only give you one whiskey.
And Noel,
leave the bottle.
What do you reckon?
Take an inch off.
What do you reckon while the heel's in the ring asking the ref to count? Yeah, Jay, you'll know this. You go Irish style, and the babyface hops over the front wall, over the carriage. Does a bunt over the carriage. He's made it. You're not counting me out. You forgot to lock the back door, you bastard.
They'll find a way in.
Yeah. Anyway,
that was NXT Takeover in your house. Thanks.
There you go.
Same bad time, same bad channel.
I tell you. Oh, Jesus. 6-man
Often
tag
is difficult in these parts.
Joe, kick us off with the 6-man tag match: Bronson Reed and MSK versus Legado del Fantasma.
Sorry, I quite enjoyed this. I thought it was a good way to kick it off. I thought there were some exciting sequences in it. I thought there was some innovative teamwork as well at times, especially from MSK and Bronson Reed. They did some triple teams together that were quite good to watch. Overall, I really quite enjoyed it. It hit all the notes you knew it was going to hit. You had, three luchadors one side, two flippy fellas the other, and then of course you had your monster. So whenever he came in, he just clobbered everyone until they could hopefully get him out. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very good. I really enjoyed it.
Reed's impressive, Jay, isn't he?
Yeah, the whole first match I enjoyed. That was again, these are because I don't watch the weeklies, because of my new fucking only watch the pay-per-views, mostly to talk here and mostly to reconnect with the sport from my perspective. I enjoyed it. I have no prior or previous knowledge of these men, and I just seen 6 men getting into the ring, and there was so many things I enjoyed about it. One, I don't ever remember seeing a mixed belt consequence match before. Do you know what I mean? Seeing 3 straps in the ring and there being consequences more than the traditional tropes. It was good. And I know there's a lot of noise from all over the wrestling world right now about bringing back these triple threat matches with triple straps. The triple teams that would be very, very territorial, and there's so many men working on every card and every fucking company right now. It would be an excellent way of bringing more into the ring weekly, even if it was just, they don't need to do them every week all the time, but this is just even analyzing it from the fucking just an enjoyment perspective, seeing the triple, what do you call it, the tag maneuvers. The triple maneuvers was fun, and watching the diversity between a big man who was working like a big man and using his fucking beef, even how adorable it was when everybody was going over the top rope, which is a trope nowadays, and him going through the middle and second one, you're like, yeah, I get that. I've seen that. That's smart. You know what I mean? It was fun. It was fun wrestling. There was some clever moves. There was good fluidity between them all. There was nobody in the ring too long, and it wasn't one of those like let's make 4 men lie on the ground injured while 2 men take out business in the middle. it was a vibrant, energetic match with very little to not like from my perspective. You know.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say, Jay, about your idea there, the 6-man tag. Do you not think too many belts dilutes?
Definitely.
You know the
That's an argument. That's an argument.
Belts that are there, like
WWE has way too many as it is. I think Jay, you were right though in terms of the throwback in terms of the 6-men. I loved them.
Yeah, I don't
Japan
think
used to do that. Do you remember Japan? Because they actually cared about athletes, believe it or not, more so than a lot of the territories. They bring lads over for a payday, is what I mean. So we're always.
There's two ways of looking at it for me. You're right, Ian. It does. It would dilute the to a degree. It would dilute the bigger picture of the straps.
Yeah.
But you've got so many men and there's so many belts. Every pay-per-view has at least 3 or 4 on the line anyway. A triple tags would be one. It would be a way of letting men who don't necessarily have a place on the card in the bigger picture get involved, and the belts are just a reason to pass something around. They don't necessarily have to be a prestigious situation. It could almost be not a gimmick match, but a way of allowing 6 men on the ring and showing us a little bit more diversity in how men work with each other. Almost like there's a science to.
Sorry, Jay, I was just going to say, you brought, and it's a great point. I'd like to see it, especially because H is the brains behind this operation, and I love him for it. What I'd like to see is bringing some of those stipulations back in the day. Do you know what I mean? Like the bag of cash over the ring, giving them a reason for these 3 random guys or whatever to team up, and women. Do you know what I mean? To get just something different rather than a belt or a prop.
Well, he's got a thing for the old territory style, and we're seeing it coming back more and more, even if it's fucking dusting over in the other company with the bull rope matches and stuff like that. We've gone through so many triple threats and so many third tropes over the last 10 years of our pro wrestling. A lot of the territorial gimmickry wouldn't be amiss right now. It freshen up the situation. There's a whole bank of men who aren't in the ascension on the way up or being groomed for top titles. Give them a place to wrestle. Let them entertain us if that's what they're here for. Like, I mean, there's no point in having a roster of 50 people and only having the same 12 to 13 or 14 on every pay-per-view all the time. And even if it's just secondary pay-per-views and throwaways like these in your houses, they don't all have to be super cyber depth matches of the future of the business. We're seeing a constructed impetus to creating legacy champions again, where big men are holding on to belts and they're being dominant again. So it's almost like they're removing the top tier title out of the situation with Reigns and Lashley, which we need to see again. The investment they put into Brock Lesnar, don't just pick one man to put that in. Have an ascended 8 to 12 men who don't need to be on TV every week. Let them be a reward for us when we sit and watch a pay-per-view. They don't need to be in every house show or every TV show. And let the bottom tier ascend a little bit quicker. And one way to do that, again, if you're going to shine, you're going to shine in 3v3 with 15 minutes. It's almost like a company approach to seeing what they're trying to do as opposed to entertaining the audience, because we've been keeping shit bullshit for too long. Let the wrestlers wrestle. That's what they're here for.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Good point. Absolutely. Joe, Lee versus Mercedes Martinez.
I've never seen either of these two ladies wrestle before, and it took them a while to warm up. I felt it was a bit sloppy at the start, mainly when they were outside, and I think it was Lee was going to throw Mercedes into the ring, and Mercedes hit the apron instead, and it looked real awkward. Then she ran back to throw her into the ring. There was a couple of instances like that. They were small. They were minor enough, but they warmed into it, and the next thing was everything started to click, and it went quite well. It was one thing. It was a fine match. It was a fine match. I they didn't impress me a huge amount.
If you were to give it a Meltzer star rating, what would you give it?
Probably 2.5, middle of the road. It was fine.
Which isn't a bad grade, to be fair. For
no, it was fine. As I said,
yeah.
As I said, small. Like as I said, the few sloppy bits at the start were, they were minor enough. There was one point where Lee was throwing a knee into Mercedes, but she used the wrong knee because Mercedes threw the other arm or something. It looked a bit weird. But as I said, they warmed into it then, and the match was fine. It wasn't. It wouldn't have made either of them a megastar. But they were. It was solid. It was rock solid, I have to say.
Yeah, I found it like I felt it was more like a weekly TV match than an actual takeover match. But then Ian made a good point at the start about how the In Your House tended to be the filler shows. And I was thinking, well, if the In Your Houses are the filler shows for the takeovers, then it was kind of like a filler match, if you like. So like a TV match, a weekly TV match. So it kind of fitted. It was the shortest match, obviously. But yeah, they did what they did. As you said, there was a couple of small little things and stuff like that. But you know, I suppose with this In Your House series that they're going to do, I think what they should do is maybe take the takeover badge out of it, because our expectation of a takeover is like up here, you know, you Balor, Dawn, Adam Cole, you know, it's so far up here.
They're calling it In Your House Mania. Do you know what I mean?
Like,
Like, don't
NXT,
do it. Like,
just NXT In Your House. And just take the takeover badge out of it.
Because I was thinking with that match there, like usually, you know, the show opener can be, you know, maybe between say 5 to 10 minutes long, maybe 12 max. And you would think, you know, I wonder, lads, you know, with the show opener being the way it was obviously worth it. Like you mentioned, they probably thought maybe we won't put these two on as the opener because they might not have enough to kind of grasp the, you know what I mean? Like to grasp the attention that we need on that. So we'll change it around a little bit because, you know, generally that's the format and they tend to still do that even today. So it was probably nice to put that in there where it was, just kind of pushing it in.
It was a hard fucking match to follow as well for the girls, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, maybe they could have done a switcheroo. It would have been a little bit like there was nothing wrong with the match. I enjoyed the entrances. It felt very sci-fi fucking computer gamey. It was very Mortal Kombat versus bleeding Big Trouble in Little China.
I love that.
You know what I mean? It was, and with the girls up top and in the other two, and I keep comparing them. It's not fair to compare the three shows to each other. The other two are seen as premium shows, and this is still seen.
Is it?
And Raw, the fucking SmackDown and Raw, the NXT is saying this is still very seen as a very developmental territory, and I think he's just desperately trying to shake off the developmental kind of moniker and trying to present it as a look. This is a fucking show. It's not going anywhere. We've got our lifers as well as upstairs does, but with the girls down there, they seem to be having a bit more character fun. Do you know what I mean? It was very stereotype kind of 80s kind of, but not in a tacky hokey way. Whereas upstairs, the girls are pushing for women's wrestling and being very serious, and they've got the characters all sorted and they're more human as opposed to this supernatural cyber gamey type of thing. And it added a new flavor to the women's roster. What they were doing down there, I enjoyed it. And like Joe said, there was more right than wrong in it. But as I've never worked, so I watched it with the smile still on my face from the last match, and I was like, that was fun.
Yeah.
You know.
Good to hear, though.
Yeah, I think when you look at it as well, the foundation and the origins of what we see with women's wrestling now in SmackDown and Raw and those pay-per-views, the origins of it are really in NXT, and this is where they build that kind of depth. So it's it's an interesting analogy, all right.
Yeah.
This was an interesting one for me, like the $1 million belt coming back, and it's coming back on an NXT show. And I love it. How many meetings had H got to have with Vince to convince him of this one and say, no, you're not getting on?
I've got an idea.
Unbelievable. And then I'm thinking, obviously, like, I mean, this is a great match for us, isn't it? LA Knight versus Cameron Grimes. We love both these guys.
Four fans, like, definitely four fans of one LA Knight, you know what I mean? There you go. He's got Eli going on. So, yeah,
he's a superstar.
Joe, I'm going to give this one to you. You're smiling.
Joe, it's yours. Yeah.
This is your match.
It was a TNA ladder match, lads. You know.
No, it was a wrestling ladder match.
We wouldn't know. We didn't watch that shit.
Eli Drake versus Trevor Lee.
No, that's fair. Okay, no, I get that. That's fair.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, the floor is yours. Don't mind us. We're all.
No, I really enjoyed it, lads. I thought this was a cracking match. It was always going to be. You had two really great operators in there. And the only thing I found weird is that the belt was kept in a case going up. I've never seen that before. You know, usually just it's strapped around a ring or something.
I thought it was nice.
Yeah, it was. And the
security shiny title, they wanted it just to sit still, like some kind of like a halo. Them other things swing around because you can pick them up for a few $100 on the WWE store. This thing is the $1 million belt again.
The security guards, the diamonds tend to come out of it.
Ted DiBiase had to sign off. Please, no, lads. I have it on good authority that Ted DiBiase, I had a call there yesterday. Ted DiBiase had to sign off on that joke.
But I like that the security guards escorted it out and the whole lot. I did enjoy it. And that neck breaker on the edge of the ladder looked pretty horrific when he had to turn on its side. Oh, that was not terribly nice. And look, as I said, it hit all the right beats. It was a good match. The only criticism I have, and it has nothing to do with the two wrestlers, it's the production. When Grimes jumped off the whatever that structure was, whatever you call it, onto LA Knight, and the camera lingered on them, and the two of them were yapping to each other. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the two of them were yapping to each other about what they're going to do next. And I was like, Jesus Christ, move, go to it. What are you doing?
It's kind of their fault though as well. Do you know what I mean? Because
no, it's not as I said, it wasn't a criticism of the wrestlers, but whoever the director was out back.
No, I'm saying that's the wrestlers' fault too. At the end of the day,
that's been a concurrent problem we've had with every show we've watched since we've been sitting down talking about this. They need to get them cameramen up to speed with the sports, their video, and they need to take their production values as seriously as everything else.
But Jay,
it can ruin a perfect second just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And now it's been getting better.
You saw Iron Man matches back in the day, and lads didn't fucking get caught speaking. You know what I mean? We can blame it on production. It's not a fucking movie. The lads need to know their skill too, and they are too very.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But we're working with what we've got, and what we've got is what's on TV. We don't have pedigree from that day. What we have now.
LA Knight does though. Definitely, they do. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
well,
Joe's not wrong. In fairness, you're not wrong, Joe. I'm not shitting on that concept. I think.
No. Actually, no. You make a good point here that they probably should have known there was a camera there.
You fucking pedant.
Always know the camera's there. That's
probably should have done a bit more to try and cover up.
Always know. There's two rules in wrestling. Always show up at a fucking arena, even if you're not booked, with your gear, and never get caught fucking speaking in the ring, regardless of whether WWE make movies these days. That's just my 2 cents.
I'm chalking it down to NXT giving us a further insight into the business. So that's what I'm putting it down to.
It's the curtain call.
What are these two guys who hate each other? Why are they talking?
Beers after the match. Yeah. I would love a strawberry daiquiri.
Could I point out something about LA Knight in particular? That now that he's on a bigger platform and he's gonna fucking rise to the top, in my opinion, and please God, he does. I mean, I can't wait.
He is.
LA Knight and Finn Balor in the fucking ring. I really can't. That is just something I'm excited about. But he reminds me, and I've said this to you, Joe, and you kind of agreed with me in the context that I meant it. He walks around like a fucking modern day Dynamite Kid, kind of in the ring in terms of how he holds himself. You know what I mean?
He's got a swagger. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a certain movement about him that reminds me of the Kid that not many people can do. And that's the highest praise. Do you know what I mean? When he does a clothesline, he's got a snap about it and he holds his body in a certain position. I've done a bit of studying on this and watched the two almost side by side, and I've seen kind of the way he moves. And I suppose it's because he's like a shorter version of The Rock, you know what I mean? And in the same token, that maybe it kind of reminds me. I don't know if anyone else.
We've said this before. You've said this when I was watching it.
I think I said it to you actually, Jerry.
We said it on a podcast when the LA Knight team came back. We were talking about Eli Drake and my love for him in NWA. I thought he was a fucking superstar. But he was. You said that he reminds you, he has shades of The Rock about him, and for me it's shades of Austin all over the place. I think he's got you know, it's obviously a compendium of some serious greats, and it's fucking serious praise for the man when these are the names we're bandying about in relation to somebody who was on a developmental program. Like he's a superstar. Yeah. I mean, the first thing I thought when I watched this match, again, I don't watch the weekly, so it was probably maybe the second or third match I'd seen. Oh, what you call the guy he was wrestling?
Cameron Grimes.
Grimes, yes. And the first thing I thought of 5 minutes in, first of all, I popped straight away.
Unit, isn't he?
Well, like this whole match was, I loved it. I fucking loved it. When you hear the Money, Money, Money song, and you're immediately dragged back to when that song, when entrance music was so important and integral to the energy of a match before the boys have to hear the first bell. If straight away, the foundations were laid for. So I just sat down and went, yes. You know what I mean? And then you got Ted walking down with 2 fucking oil bleeding center security guards from Claire's Accessories. I'm like, yes. You know what I mean? Then you see that strap and we're like, we have landed. And then these 2 boys fucking go at it, and one walks down and he's got the cut off. Now I know it's a lot flashier, but he's got a cut off like Austin used to fucking strut down to the ring in, and his pants are the color. It just screamed Hulkamania at me. It was the white and the red, and the way it is. You know what I mean? High energy subliminally pushed through the TV screen at you. It's like fucking dashes of genius from many different eras at this. And then he walks down. A little bit of everything. Yeah. And then these 2 boys go at it, and one walks down and he looks like he hasn't seen a gym in his life, but he still loves his life. You know what I mean? And he's just fucking brilliant. Grimes exudes a fiendish fucking charisma, which is completely opposite to the polished, perfect production of Eli, who was in, then was sent out, did his fucking tour around whoever would have him, fucking, yeah, put himself over hard, yeah, and then just came back to the company and walked in and was like, he's made a mistake first time round, he just won't get that chance again. And the bell fucking goes, and I just thought straight away, this is physique versus finesse. One of these men doesn't hit the gym all too often, but his timing is fucking impeccable. And the other one is a fucking cut out figure straight onto the shelves, the Smiths. And the pair of them smashing each other for this legacy title, which was only ever held by 2 other men except for fucking Ted himself. And even that title was a reward to Ted's bleeding work, you know what I mean? Fucking Vince knew what he had with Ted, even when his locker room was full of legends. It's just all of the perfect ingredients for a great fucking ladder match, and even introducing a ladder to an already perfectly cooked situation. I hope them 2 have a little rivalry over this belt for the next 2 or 3 months, because they're magic together. They're classic pro wrestling. I mean, we say that the business has changed and moved on. It hasn't. When the boys in the back know what they want and want from 2 athletes, and they serve it up to us, you're like, well, this is a modern day classic straight away. And it's in the middle of this in your house from an NXT program, in the middle of a pandemic year. NXT is going to have a great year when the crowds come back. You know what I mean? And even the people at the edge of the barrier slamming on the perspex and the cage, everything about it was just like, this is pro fucking wrestling.
You know? Well, no, Jay, I'd say there's a lot of people listening to this right now saying, I want to know what gym Cameron Grimes doesn't go to and go there. Pretty fucking good shape to me.
He's in great shape, but when you're standing beside that other cut, do you know what I mean?
Oh, well, look, yeah, no, I hear.
One got a 3-month subscription, the other's being a lifer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I'm team. One lad just likes to lift a bit.
There's a difference between a 1-month subscription and a 1-month prescription. 2 very different things.
Yeah, listen, both were commonplace in the 80s, baby.
Yeah, I love the way they bring back, say, like the $1 million belt, and it coincides with like the Hidden Treasure show about the $1 million belt, and obviously Triple H is involved in these Hidden Treasure shows, and he goes, I have an idea for that. Give me that back out of the warehouse. You know what I mean? Yoink. Thanks. You know what I mean? Like the $1 million belt on an NXT show.
Boss, I have an idea. I don't care. I told you not to call me. I'm old. Thanks.
Just another thing on the one thing I do worry about with this title is DiBiase going to be the mouthpiece? Because like LA Knight does not need a mouthpiece, and neither did Cameron Grimes, to be honest. Okay. So that's the only thing I worry about, is that Ted will take over a lot of the talking when he really doesn't need to. Because I tell you one thing, lads, if WWE drop the ball with LA Knight, just fucking write them off.
I don't think he's going to allow them to. I don't think he's going to allow them to. I mean, like I said, I see shades of Austin in him, and there he is holding a belt that Austin was one of the other 2 people. Ted knows what to do, when to do, and how to do it. And he's also very lazy, and less is more with Ted. He'll let, Eli cut a promo, and then he'll just say, ha ha ha, money.
Yeah, I was looking at it as well, and I was kind of nearly fantasy booking, and I was thinking, I'd love to see Cameron Grimes in a tag team with Adam Page or Hangman Page and be tag team champs. I think it'd be awesome,
Yeah, that kid has it.
Yeah, big time. Let's move on. This one I really enjoyed. Raquel Gonzalez versus Amber Moon. think Amber Moon is outstanding at the moment. Joe, go on, give us this one.
Yeah, look, brilliant. Second best match of the night for me, the ladder match number one. Then this, when I was watching it, and I was watching Ember Moon, and I was like, how did the main roster not have anything for her? Like she just did nothing when she went up.
True, yeah.
And you look at her here, and in her other NXT matches, you're like, Jesus Christ, how the fuck did they not have something for her?
Looks
She's
great
phenomenal.
too, doesn't she? Like,
yeah, oh, she's brilliant. She's unreal. And then Gonzalez continues to impress me. She's, you know, I think was it Dean said that she just looked big and stupid at some point. I think, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? But like she, you know, she looks quite tall and a bit gangly. Like she doesn't perform like that in the ring. She's unbelievable. And Dakota Kai doing her thing on the outside. I don't know about you lads, but I roared laughing when Shotzi Blackheart came out. And she just touched Dakota Kai, and Dakota Kai was gone. She didn't even turn around to find out what was there. She just screamed and ran. And I thought that was brilliant. I nearly died. But you know, I really enjoyed this match. As I said, Raquel continues to impress me, and how they dropped the ball with Ember Moon and main roster makes no sense. She's absolute gold.
She probably just wasn't ready for it, and that's not a criticism. Mentally speaking, it probably wasn't her time. I mean,
Vince probably wasn't ready for her. Let's be fair. It's like saying Finn Balor wasn't ready for it. Like,
well, the women's division up there is quite a shark tank as well. The breakthrough in that division takes a lot, you know. So,
yeah, and she seems more comfortable down there. She seems more comfortable in that, you know, Mad Max Thunderdome style of darkly lit fucking. We want to see us wrestle. As opposed to upstairs, we want to see us sell 1 million t-shirts. Maybe that's just not her, and that's not a criticism. Different people excel in different environments, and like the men said, with the women's roster upstairs, the script and stories already wrote out for the next 2 years. There's no place for new people in it. I mean, she just get in, fucking roll around with a few girls, get squashed.
Don't forget the shy hogs that run the show up at the main roster, as in like the B list, or actually, sorry. I've just given the writers in WWE the biggest compliment. The Z-list Hollywood writers up in that shit show at the top that write their 3-hour show every month. They wouldn't know what to do with an Ember Moon. You know what I mean? It's you know, poor old Vince Russo still gets a bad rap. It's the stuff they have written now.
You know, honestly, I'm glad. There's no reason to rush her into the mix. The mix is already solid enough up there. She just get lost in it. Let her make her own name. Bring her own spurs up when she's good and ready for it.
I agree with that too, yeah.
You know?
Although I would say, I mean, is it not fair to say that the writing for the women's division is reasonably solid?
It's reasonably solid.
Yeah.
Sasha Banks, like, who was like probably one of the best, if not the best in-ring performer, bell to bell, you know, acting like a bleeding moron. Now, she's probably excited to do it and show her range, but like, this isn't, you know what I mean? It's you know, a lot of it wouldn't be my cup of tea. Do you know what I mean? It's I agree with you. Yeah, a lot of the women are excelling because it's probably easier for them to write because they, you know what I mean? They can kind of, I suppose they can control it a little bit better. I mean,
yeah, I'd say they probably have. I'd say they probably have a bigger input in terms of creativity as well.
Maybe
they're probably in their own minds as well. They're probably more creative as well.
Yeah.
With
and the lads would, yeah, exactly. Because you know Vince would be like, you can't make Vince change his mind. Like, you know, the women, I'm sure he takes an invested interest. Of course he does.
I think so. Yeah.
It's definitely, from what I've heard, is that like it's kind of, he takes an invested interest, but there's still a lot of hand in from Stephanie and Hunter on that particular one. The boys are still Vince's main project.
Yeah, there's probably a chip on his shoulder in the fact that he's got the company up to this stage in the game because of his ideas and his focus, and he probably thinks the success is down to what I have chosen, what I've decided. But the world has said we want quality women's wrestling that isn't just silliness. So I am going to agree with what is suggested to me.
Yeah,
I will say sometimes I don't get it. But they already know it doesn't matter what you get. We're going this way with this girl, and you don't have a fucking clue about women's wrestling. Yeah. Just ask Alundra Blaze. So shut up, old man.
I would agree.
And he's like, do you know what I mean? And they're breaking new ground. They are. We're only 3 years into the revolution upstairs with the females, and they are breaking new ground. So he's probably very. He doesn't have his hands on it. He likes to say yes to whatever they tell him. Whereas with the men, it's like, I don't care. Fire that guy we've been making vignettes for the last 3 weeks. Do you know what I mean?
But Ember Moon, though, definitely, I think Ember Moon is absolutely phenomenal. And I also agree with Joe. I think Raquel Gonzalez is there's such potential in that girl, too. I mean,
she's going all the way.
She goes up to the top. Like, imagine the
She's
stuff
going
that
all
she
the
can
way.
have with the two girls, Shayna Baszler.
Well, they need to
all the
put.
girls, actually. I would love to see that.
Yeah, no, they need to put a year and a half to 2 years between her and Rhea. They've got new flavor and new flesh up there that needs to be developed and made internationally strong as a product. Sending women who are already a golden ticket up there would just interfere with the flux of a product 5 years down the line. Does that make sense?
Isn't it mad to think that these two women as well, like Raquel is 30 and Ember Moon is 32? Like, I wouldn't have thought they were that old, to be honest with you. I would have thought they were still in their 20s. Like, but I mean, like, in wrestling terms, they're still way young. You know what I mean? Like, the world is their oyster. Like, and
you're right. They don't go like they're in the mid of their career. They don't go like that.
And especially as Jay said, we're really only into a 3 or 4 or 5 year period of this relaunch of this women's division.
Absolutely,
yeah.
So
and I mean, obviously, the main event at WrestleMania, obviously, with Ronda, Becky, and Charlotte, like that was the one that was like, we are here at this dance now. Women have been accepted as legitimate main event contenders. I mean, that was, and let's not forget, let's give Vince credit where it's due. Sometimes we knock him. That was his decision. You know what I mean? So.
And now we've got more main event females than we do males, when there's only probably maybe 20% of the roster is female. Like we've got a succession of the next few years there.
So, like, if you look at the 2 nights of Mania, the 2 women's championship matches were vying for match of the night.
Yeah.
This one again vying for match of the night. You know, it just, as you said, Jay, an instant classic in that ladder match was a cracker. You know what I mean? It's the only thing that I personally was the only match that surpassed it on the night.
You know what I love seeing as well, Joe, is that, like, back in the day, and this isn't, we're not on some of the women. A lot of times the women thought that they had to try and get everything into like 5 to 8 minutes.
They were rushing a 20-minute match into 6 minutes.
That's all they were given.
That's all they were given, exactly. Yeah.
However, this match, even at 12 minutes and 40, right, that's still not a mad long match in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's an opening level to kind of maybe mid-level kind of time frame to give someone. But when you see the girls now, how they're able to slow down and get their stuff in, like, they're telling fucking stories now because they've been allowed to. They've been told to create. They've been trained in the right way. They've been given the platform to do so. And it's not like, let's go out and impress the boss right now, like Alundra Blaze and Nikita Nakano back in 94. So
Nakano, yeah.
And like,
Velvet McIntyre from Dublin.
There you go. Do you know what I mean? It's like, now they actually have a platform to go and compete with the guys on their own time and at decent time as well. Do you know what I mean? Not just, hey, go out and do something for 6 minutes and show me what you got. And
if you look at the placement of that match on that card, between that cracking ladder match and then the 5-way main event, it could easily get lost in that shuffle. You know what I mean? And yet, it was amazing. It was a cracking match.
Of great matches, yeah.
Yeah, and for me, as I said, that was the second best match of the night. Like, I thought it was brilliant. Loved it.
High praise.
It's again, as a caveat to this situation, to the development and modernization of female wrestling. I can see the first Iron Woman match being between Gonzalez and Ripley. I can see something big. I mean, we're 2 or 3 years down the pike, but if you were to pick 2 women who could go, and you know how the company loves breaking thresholds. And Ian, you just said 12 to 13 minutes. Unfortunately, the modern viewer and of the internet age seems to be a shorter match. That there's no patience for the wear down moves, the long holds, the selling of injuries. An hour long match, it's almost, unless it's fucking.
You know what though, Jay? I won't say the word correct you, but what I will say is that there is in NXT. Those fans live for that shit. They are the real wrestling fans, in my opinion. The real wrestling fans are always going about. They are them. We've seen it with the Balor Cross matches. We've seen it with Pete Dunne matches. We've seen that they're willing to be educated, I suppose, in a new way of watching an old.
What I would read not correct that in saying that it's H's eye on the rest of the world's wrestling. Like, I mean, there's almost like a Japanese flavor to some, like the fucking the Devitt matches. Whenever he was in NXT and whether it was a belt or whatever, his matches were 35 to 40 minute fucking. They were joy to watch. They were a joy to watch. It's H is using the show to re-educate the mentality of the viewer.
Yes.
And it's a slow developmental process. You can't flash in the pan. And instant success isn't going to do anybody any good. It's almost like he's kind of trying to re-educate who's watching. And he knows we're not talking about demographics. When the demographic we should be worrying about is the demographics we've lost. We can't talk about who's doing good in front of 800,000 people on a fight night. We've lost 2 million. Mm-hmm. It's those 2 million we need back. We need to readdress wrestling, recreate what was great, and readdress the attitude era and bring it all back to fucking zero. Because we got to a stage with pro wrestling where if you keep raising the bar and creating expectations, one, you cut the lifeline and you cut the length of the average wrestler's career by 15 fucking years. We need to readdress that. We need to allow ourselves to be entertained without watching people kill themselves. And I feel that off NXT.
No, just on Ian's point about the fans, I thought they were really quiet. I don't know, and when I was watching it, I actually wrote it down. Like I said, the crowd I thought they were a bit quiet anyway, and I wrote down, are they too smart for their own good? If you know what I mean, that they're so, that they're so into that they know they're too smart to enjoy it nearly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there were times when things happened in matches where you knew that traditionally this would get a pop from the crowd. The crowd were just stone silent, and it just made me think, are they a bit too, are they a bit too smart?
Shut up, Joe. If this was a TNA phone box match, it'd be all over it. No, I'm kidding. I agree with you.
Maybe they came down the motorway from Jacksonville and they were wondering what all this wrestling's about.
Yeah, maybe. Because there were times when I was watching it when I said to myself, geez, I'd say WWE wish they were still, I bet they wish they were still pumping in crowd noise. Because just at times it was just dead. But it wasn't a sound.
I think sometimes with NXT as well, like there's an expectation of that kind of crowd involvement. And I think sometimes when you put on a certain clinic of a wrestling match, sometimes it's nice to sit back and absorb every moment of it. And you're still enjoying it as much as if you're out of your seat giving it loads. But it just doesn't come across that way on TV.
It's like... sorry. The comparison there would be UFC. UFC 263 or wherever was on with the other night. The crowd spent the first half of the event booing things when they... If that event wasn't a UFC numbered event where everybody was buying tickets because they knew they were going to see an all-star cast, if that was a fight night or on Fox, the crowd's quiet, not because they're bored, because they're fucking intently watching. It's like when people don't say, yeah, fuck them up when they're watching a Wimbledon rally. Yeah. They're starting to Americans are starting to watch the wrestling in front of them, and that's happening in NXT, whereas going to Raw and SmackDown is a show and you have to pop and go crazy.
Which is
they're turning into Japanese fans,
yeah, but it's helping with the education of the audience as well, But
I agree with that, Noel, because that's the truth. It's like
a re-education, yes.
You look back at the Iron Man match. Yeah, I went back and watched the because we had done the two, the two A&E shows, which obviously one has been released and one's due to be released. But I went back and watched some of the Iron Man matches, even the one with the Rock and H, but the WrestleMania 12 one. And it's true, you go back and you watch them, and at the start they're kind of like excited for a bit, but then they're quiet, and then they're going home, and they're building it up. And I find that some of the modern wrestling fans as well that are at shows like NXT. And I don't watch TNA or anything, so Joe could probably say what he sees there as well. Maybe they are, but it's the same when I watched just to give them their props, the Cody and Dustin match. The fans there didn't know what they were in for, and it was like all the smartness left their body during that match, and they got brought back to the 1980s without even knowing it. So when the work is that good, I think. Yeah. That the fan can be as smart as they want. And listen, smart fans, please keep being smart. I know we tease sometimes. It's your product as well. You guys pay to wear these T-shirts. We tease sometimes, and me in particular.
Fuck you, fans.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But it is their right to cheer and boo for what the hell they want.
If they keep buying tickets, they're interested.
Yeah, all I would suggest is just try and watch someone with an open mind. And look, if you love Kenny Omega and you think he's the best in the world, absolutely, then he is the best in the world to you. You know what I mean? But I think,
yes, sap.
but it is true. What I'm saying is that
Not you, damn.
amazing when they can be brought into the dance, into the world. And I commend. I've said it, the best wrestling match I've seen in the last 5 years. It's still up there. Is the Cody Dustin match with
Yes.
a sprinkle of debit matches in there in between Balor matches because he's had some that are very, very similar.
And
But,
Cody Atlas.
sorry,
Aldis. Cody Aldis as well.
Cody Aldis is another one. Exactly. Cody's name just keeps popping up.
Yeah. Well, look, watching a big match is like watching a movie. If you've got the fans' attention, they shouldn't be shouting and doing stupid things. That ruckus fucking atmospheric attitude of the Attitude Era. It was readdressed again with the PG era, you know what I mean? And we seen it at that really long Mania. Do you remember the really long one they did where the fans were dead before it was even 3/4 of the way through? They just have no more energy left.
I was there.
You know?
I was there. Don't worry. I know how long it was. Oh my
Really?
I like the analogy of Joe when he was talking about like the Japanese fans, because I remember one time I was.
They'd sit him and they'd clap good
yeah,
stuff.
But
Yeah.
I was at an ROH event one time, a Take No Prisoners event before WrestleMania 24.
Oh, nice.
And you know what ROH fans are like, they're boisterous.
Was that ones with CM Punk on it, wasn't it? You watched?
No. This was the one where the Briscoes opened the match in a 6-man and the top rope snapped.
Oh.
And the turnbuckle came out, but they actually snapped the bar and they couldn't fix it, and then they used it as a weapon. And the Lucha lads against the Briscoes were doing dives off the second rope and all sorts of stuff. But the
Lego
show,
Lucha.
But to add to Joe's point, the show was absolute mayhem. I mean, Kamala was on this show. The Bushwhackers were on this show. It was absolutely crazy, and people are out there seeing doing the Bushwhacker stuff. But then the main event was Davey Richards versus Kenta.
Oh.
And the whole town came down, and even the lighting in the building changed for the match. And if you ever want to watch a match, lads, it was unbelievable. And the crowd kind of knew when to come in, but they knew when to sit back because they knew they were watching a bit of history. And it was phenomenal. Davey does a dive to the outside, and I think he landed in row 10. And and when he landed, he did that little trick in where you run up the steps a bit further on your hands and knees, and then he stood up. So it looks like he had dived about 20 rows. It was unbelievable. But it was such an education in sitting down and actually taking in and absorbing every inch and every punch of a match, and it was just fantastic.
I think that could be lost on us.
No, I was just saying before you get to the main event,
yeah.
Here's a quick one. That a lot of the wrestlers, and I don't condone any wrestler listen to this to fucking do it. But for all of the mad kind of stunts you see, and I'm not talking about the Marcos of this world, I'm talking about some of the crazy stunts you see, where lads are just putting their body on the line. Have you noticed, and this is a little teaser to an upcoming show, have you noticed that there's a certain one that they don't do, that Dynamite Kid and Rollerball Rocco, and pretty much Dynamite made every fucking wrestler do it, to be fair, but the two of them always made it look real safe. The suplex over the top rope where the two boys go over. You never see anybody do that, and nor do I condone it. Because to get that one down and not kill yourself is probably not condoned. But you know, there's certain things that they'll try and there's certain things that they won't. You know what I mean? And like these dives, it's like because like a dive is in every match now. Every match. I remember the first time I'd seen a proper dive, and Joe will probably back me up on this. The first time I'd seen it properly live was, of course, Finn Balor, like at local level. And like when he went over the top, and I mean, Joe, you remember the one where he did it over the top and the guy ducked, one Paddy Morrow ducked, and it took the full fucking bump on the back. I mean, talk about like wanting to please 50 people.
You got your money worth, you fucks.
Oh, I remember the Paddy Morrow one when he went over the buckle and over the post and pancaked onto the floor. And an absolute bang off it. And I was just there going, oh my God, he must be dead.
It's just mental. This used to be a part, and like I never even condoned any of that, to be honest with you. I'd be sitting there going, boys, come on, you know what I mean?
Listen, it takes a certain kind of man with a certain kind of confidence in his ability to flip himself and hold his equilibrium and know his gravity and know this isn't going to finish me. You're talking about 1 in 10,000 people like that are fucking rare.
Well, every wrestler does it now, though. That's the fucking thing.
Yeah, but there's a reason you're not seeing them 6 years
now,
away. You know what I mean? There's a reason they're not turning up at fucking autograph signings because, you know, they're off eating steak through a fucking straw.
It's mad. No, it's just a point I wanted to make.
Wanting to be able to do it and being able to do it. Two different
I'm glad
things.
we had that conversation, though, because I think it's a good point that Joe brought up as well, obviously, with the crowd being a bit quieter. And I am a fan of the old Japanese matches as well, where it was like snooker. They'll applaud the shot, and it's like
it was the same in MMA. There's two men, and one is actually trying to kill somebody, and like, you know, he's nearly dying, and you could hear a pin drop in the Pride Arena. The reverence and respect, but you got to understand that silence doesn't equate to not entertained.
No.
When you view on a TV, there's no emotion, whereas you're sitting in the crowd, there's this palpable energy of people sitting there going.
I would pay to watch a silent US crowd, and guess what? I did with that first AEW pay-per-view, as I said, with Cody and Dustin. There was moments of silence in there to me as a wrestling fan and as just someone that is obsessed with the sport. Really applauded. I was like, I was sitting there watching it with the better half going, this is good. This is good because this wait and you hear the eruption soon, you know. And anyway, sorry, we segued. Let's get to the main event.
Yes, we did.
It was a good segue, though.
It was a great segue.
God damn it, Joe.
It was a great segue.
He's still used to hearing silence at AEW shows. What, with the 6 people in the crowd? Pre-pandemic, they couldn't even get 20 people in. Jesus Christ, Joe, stop watching TNA.
Joe is quality over quantity.
Joe, we'll have to do a TNA show. This is terrible.
We are going to have to. We will have to.
Yes, sir. Noel and Joe will do a great job.
I think Joe should host that.
Jay be drinking that night.
Yeah. What do you think about this, Mache? I was eating chicken nuggets.
I would absolutely watch whatever matches you wanted to watch.
Yes. And also, again, here, people, anybody out there who's watching, and we know you're watching, comment shit down in that box. You want us to watch and review something? Do the fucking thing. Use your words. Use your free will.
Absolutely.
Tell us exactly what you think of me.
Joe's going to be straight on in the morning with his 5 YouTube profiles coming on all the latest things.
All night with new email addresses.
You guys are going to regret this. All these new Google Gmail accounts. Views,
who the fuck is I Heart Moose?
Yeah, first TNA show, 4,000 views.
Like, Joe, be creative.
Let's get on to this main event. Karrion Kross, Adam Cole, Pete Dunne, Johnny Gargano, and Kyle O'Reilly.
Star
NXT
lineup.
Absolute star lineup. But missing one man, of course, to add to that star lineup. But again,
where was Balor?
Yeah.
I'll tell you where he was. I'll tell you where he was, and it's great. This is the great premise for the match. I saw people going on Twitter, no Balor. That's called great booking once again from the H-Man. He's obviously out because of the last match. He's obviously there wondering what's the next step, what's happening, blah, blah, blah. It's not always about that. It's old school booking. The champion and the former champion didn't have to be on every single goddamn show, people. That's wrestling education. Think about it.
Yeah, sure, Jay was only saying that earlier as well. Like, you don't need these guys on every single week. You know, give like, you know, we talked about it before, like when Brock Lesnar is champ, disappears for weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just makes I think it makes the title that bit more prestigious. That you get there, you can take some time off. You're the main man. You don't have to prove yourself anymore.
Yes.
Make those other peons fucking fight each other for the honor to take you on.
Yes.
You know?
The ascension of greatness.
Look at all the greats. They all did it. Shawn, Bret, Hogan. They all did it. Austin sometimes wouldn't show up on TV, you know, or wouldn't be on every pay-per-view, even though they were the champ or the former champ. Sometimes the story, let the narrative kind of speak to you. Balor is obviously now quite. Let's use the word kayfabe, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just paint a tiny little 1 minute picture. He's quite clearly upset that he's after losing 2 times in a row for the first time in his NXT career. He's obviously distraught, doesn't know what to do, doesn't have this guy's number. Karrion Kross has beat him twice. He absolutely obliterated him in that last match. What's Balor going to come back and do? Use 4 other men as
he's off finding himself, isn't he?
Yeah, he's off
waxing on, waxing off.
Waxing on, waxing off. Who knows? He's probably gone over to Japan to talk to Liger, just to kind of sit down and say, what do I need to do to beat this man? What do I need to do? This man's in my head here now. Here's me, a newly wedded man. And that's.
Yeah, so sometimes less is more. And I think for champions, especially the ones at the top, like just no harm in letting them disappear for a little while.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then when you do hear that, and that was one thing that used to annoy me as well with WWE. They'd announce when Brock Lesnar was going to be on Raw.
Yeah.
It's like, don't do that. Let his music hit and people just lose their fucking shit.
Because they say they don't care about ratings anymore, right? You know what I mean? Because they say they don't care about ratings anymore. Well, if you don't, then just let the ratings boost organically.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing, as you said, it's all about eyeballs. So they have to announce him. Yeah. Oh, he's going to be on next. He's going to be here next. It's like, fuck it. Why would you bother? Because it would be so. If someone's gone for a few weeks, and then their music hits, like regardless of whether the crowd hated them or loved them, they go fucking bananas.
Yeah.
And
we get that at home watching on the box as well. When the crowd in the room is into it, we get really into it. Yeah. I mean, it's like hearing them bagpipes break the curtain. Do you know what I mean? It's something special's going to happen. It's a treat.
Yeah, but also if you remember back in the day, they also used to announce it as well. You'd have Mean Gene turning around and going, "We're going to have an exclusive next week with Hulk Hogan or Randy Savage," something like that, and then we'd be all over watching Wrestling Challenge or whatever it is. And Hogan.
It'd be very rare, though, Noel.
Yeah, it'd be rare, but they'd still say they'd always have some sort of an exclusive. If it wasn't Jake or Hogan or Superstar Billy Graham or Ken Patera or whatever it was, they'd still say someone's coming up to boost that. Now I suppose it's in a different system where you had that.
Or the Izzy show. Do you know when they'd have the whole, is he here tonight? We don't know. Is he in the building? We've talked to security. They haven't seen him yet. I was like, well, if you checked with the security at the car park, they probably know whether he's coming.
That's what WCW from 96 to 98 were the best in the business at. And they're actually the best of all time at doing it. It's not even a close, like it's WWE are here and WCW are here. They used to get the hourly rating because when you listen to Eric Bischoff, you get such education on how actual TV works. People think the ratings happens over a 3-hour period. It's a minute by minute thing. It's every 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah, live feeds.
People flicking the channel. So WWE have this thing in their head that, oh no, we got to announce it. No. WCW used to always have that. And it was always me and Gene standing there. Well, we're not sure if Goldberg is in the building. And then you'd have Jericho come out go, I know for sure he's not in the building because I ran his ass off. He knows Jericho is one. And he's Greenberg is you know what I mean? This kind of stuff. And then it would build to that point where like people are going, when is Goldberg going to show up and kick this lad's arse? And then just randomly, boom, and it was one of the hottest segments.
Yeah, but isn't there a kind of a creative way of announcing it without just it being kind of a flat thing that sounds like a network is announcing it, like Fox are saying?
Well, that's the
Lesnar will be here next week. You know the way Mean Gene used to be really creative, and by the way, next week we will have Ricky the Dragon, and they'd make a huge deal out of it.
Exactly.
There was two tricks to doing it. There was two tricks traditionally when, again, as a young innocent fucking face watching TV, there was two tricks they used to use. One was mention his name, even if they hadn't for the previous 3 weeks. So if they mentioned his name at the opening of the show, which was when you tuned in, you knew the fucker was going to be there. But two, not have it so segmented so that you had to watch the whole show until he made his appearance. It wouldn't be like a Piper's Pit interview or something like that. It'd be like, if they mentioned his name, there's a chance he's in the building. And if there's a chance he's in the building, he's definitely in the fucking building. Yeah. But they're not telling me we're saving this guy for the last 20 minutes of the segment. So you're like, so I'll watch the 2 hours because we know he's here. We know I want to see him. You're just not telling me when he's going to pop the curtain. So you watch the whole show to wait for him. You know?
I suppose the times have changed as well because, like, if you look at it, like on the old Wrestling Challenge or like, you know, Saturday Night's Main Event or whatever, they'd be like, be sure to tune. It was the same bat time, same bat channel kind of deal. They'd be like, tune in next week. In action, we have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Yeah.
Also in action, you know, such and such, the Ultimate Warrior. And then they'd announce, we've got a special televised look at the match between Bob Backlund and whoever. Do you know what I mean? Like they'd choose something, and then they'd be like, "We're also going to take
Good point.
They'd also give you a little snippet. We're all like, for example, the 1991. Tune in next week. We're going to give you a sneak peek at the final moments of the Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6. And people were like, oh, I've never seen that. I never got the tape. You know what I mean? So it's just the way television has changed over
they also had 40 men you wanted to see as opposed to 40 men working for 4 you wanted to see.
Yeah, like you wanted to see.
You know what I mean? They had a revolving roster. They could do shit like that, you know?
But do you know the way they sold it as well? They didn't sell it like the company is demanding you to be there.
No.
It was like sort of, Greg the Hammer Valentine will be here next week because he wants to be here because he has shit to sort out.
And guess what? So's Ricky Steamboat going to be here. And he's just happy to show up and put the tights on for you. You little kid at home. Ricky Steamboat is coming on next week for you.
Also, them little corner videos. You know what I mean? You're watching fucking... You're watching Joe Handsome versus Johnny Gorgeous. And then, well, let me tell you something, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Next week, I'm definitely going to be on the show and I'm going to fuck you up. And you're like, why am I watching this when there's wrestling in the ring?
And do you ever notice the commentators never alluded to it, so they'd be like, and here's a special message from Mr.
Boom.
And then the match would go silent, so you wouldn't hear the commentators.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you, you got Bobby the Brain Heenan. I know
you've been going around the town saying things you shouldn't have been done saying.
And then it would go back to the match, and then you just have Gorilla Monsoon go, well, that was Mr. Perfect.
And they'd always
with his jacket on with the hand in the air.
And they'd always go to a kid in the crowd looking at superstars of wrestling's ice cream bars and have Ricky Steamboat on it or whatever it was.
Looking like an absolute fucking, just the happiest kid in the world dribbling, just going,
all down.
Jesus, we were worked hard, weren't we?
Yeah.
No wonder we're so bitter about contemporary wrestling. Nobody lies to us anymore.
Except for Joe, because he loves TNA.
Well, nobody watches TNA. You never know who's going to turn up because they don't know who they have on the roster that week. Who turned up for work?
TNA
okay, send them in.
I loved Trish Stratus in TNA. Just saying.
Joe.
Hilarious.
Joe, main event.
It was hilarious.
NXT Championship.
Look, the main event. When I saw it was announced and all that, and the first thing that popped into my head, I said, does it really need so many moving parts? You know, to have 5 guys in. Now, 2 minutes in, I knew why they did it. It was to make Cross just look like an absolute monster, and which of course they did really well because the guy is an absolute animal.
He is,
he's an absolute freak, and but as I said initially, I was looking at him, I was there, like him against 4 guys. What the f is it? Like 5 guys in the ring? No, it doesn't make sense to me on such a short pay-per-view. If they wanted those guys to be on the pay-per-view, they could have put them in other matches. But as I said, a few minutes in, I went, this is why they did it. Because as soon as the match kicked off, none of them went near Cross. He just stood there and let them beat each other up for a minute. And then, of course, he went to town and bet the piss out. Look, I really enjoyed this match a lot more than I thought. Because as I said, when I initially looked at it, I thought there were too many moving parts to it. But I did quite enjoy it. There were elements of like what we give out about with triple threats where one guy has to die for a while. One of the bits that stuck out a lot to me was when Pete Dunne, Johnny Gargano, and Cross went down the ramp and they pushed him through a door, and the 2 lads just took a bump and just lay there for no reason. There was no need for it, but they had to waste time while the other guys were doing their thing in the ring. And there were a couple of elements like that annoyed me a small bit, but it was enjoyable overall. And they got crossed over huge in that match. Like the guy is just another ex-TNA guy, by the way. So
I could tell.
the jury is still out on him from a lot of fans, though. Do you know what I mean? In terms of how they're making him look, you know what I mean? And they're kind of covering up some of his deficiencies, which has happened through the dawn of time with big men. You know what I mean? So I think people are probably being a little bit harsh there, to be fair. Like, I mean, he's had some good one-on-ones there with Balor, albeit being the best in-ring performer on the planet right now. I think Fergo could make a broomstick look good at this stage. But I think as well, like this is an all-star cast, and he came across looking really strong, as you say. So, I mean, I think credit where it's due. I mean, I wonder with this, because obviously you can't just have Cross lose it to someone like Balor now, or lose it to someone like, you know, I mean, the love in with Gargano backstage seemed to be the biggest story of the night, with Gargano just posing with Shawn Michaels all night and Triple H. It's just all the pictures that are coming out of this event. It was like a fan for a day kind of deal. I was like, what's going on? You could
Yeah, but in fairness, his gear, his throwback gear to Shawn Michaels was nice.
I know it was beauty. No, it was just more of a fun thing, and I thought the pictures were awesome. But no, I think even with the likes of Pete Dunne, because he's kind of grown, you know what I mean? So they're building him up.
He's the orange one, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Very orange.
Yeah, he's very orange. It's distracting.
But it probably didn't have. He probably looked more orange this night because he was wearing white gear.
Listen, we know how we know how I feel about my neighbours, but he's silly. He's fucking silly.
I know.
Great.
I think Dunn is fantastic.
That's nice.
Yeah, I do think, Ian, when you're talking there about Cross, I think he's going to do an ask on it. He's just going to give up the belt and head off.
Ascend.
I was kind of hoping that we might get some kind of meeting between like him and Balor, obviously. You know what I mean? In some way, shape, or form. Because I mean that would be the right kind of, because I haven't seen much of Walter. How is he doing? Is he doing much in the main roster, or has he even been kind of around? No, like that's what I was thinking. Like with Walter kind of not doing a whole lot, I was kind of thinking that was the natural progression to maybe have the two of them in a bit of a program, because I think Walter would also be able to kind of cover up some of those deficiencies and bring out that kind of I suppose even inner demon of Mr. Cross. I don't know.
I don't know if he has as many deficiencies as people think.
Well, we're talking about what the
writers
are saying.
I get you. I do get you. But I don't think
I don't think he has a lot.
As I said, like I watched him in Impact.
I didn't enjoy him.
Really? Yeah.
I didn't enjoy Anna that much. I didn't enjoy anything about much at all. I think he's very forced. Look, first of all, this is, for me, it was the weakest match on the card. Okay. All the way up, I enjoyed it. Now I would have switched the ladies first and the triple threat second, but that's a small grievance. So I was still in the mode of this. I saved this match because I couldn't watch it all one through. I don't know why I got it into my head that it was that other fucking motherfucker that I really enjoy watching, the baldy head with the beard, angry guy.
Ciampa.
Yeah, I fucking love watching that guy. I seen he did a little kind of an interview thing in the middle of the card last night. And I was like, okay, I'll save that match till I come home and work today. Come out and work today, lay down my burger and chips in front of me, said, lovely, I'll watch this last match. It wasn't him. I start seeing all of these people coming out, and I'm like,
he's a mini J with no hair, isn't he?
But I've seen all these people coming out. I've seen Orange Lad. I'm like, okay. And then I seen Shawn Michaels' legs, and I was like, that's cool. And then I seen Money in the Bank pants, and I'm like, And then I seen this guy roll out, and immediately the illusion of what I wanted from a finale from this pay-per-view was destroyed. I think it was done the wrong way. I think all of them getting in the ring and then rolling out one at a time to have a go at Cross one at a time, it was the most contrived, illusion-shattering 6 to 7 minutes to a match I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, what are you stealing? The Three Stooges out there?
Did you think
run into each other's head and down?
Did you think?
I think they could have done it smarter. I think 1, they tried to rush too much. 2, it was too conceited. 3, if I had booked that match personally, I would have done if you were going to smash 4 men at the same time to make one man ascend, I would have done it a little bit more logically. I would have done it ran it as a gauntlet match. I would have fed them to him one at a time just to put how behemoth he is over without making them look weak as 4 against 1. I think it decimated half of the fucking upper mid-tier roster that company has in one fucking match. Why would you leave such a gulf between the guy wearing your gold and 4 men who should be in contendership to be in the ring with him? If he's fed them to them one at a time, we can believe that. Let them get a little offense. Let him work traditionally. fucking smash, bang, and then stand at the edge of the rope, send in another, send in another, send in another, and then let the match convince me that he is convincing. But this Three Stooges shit of running into each other's heads and then lying on the ground for 5 minutes while one lad starts pulling at fucking fingers. I mean, why doesn't anybody, if that move is so devastating, if somebody puts something on me and I see him breaking fingers, I'm like, I'm going to do that too. That looks interesting. It was just, it was
throwback. It's a throwback to British, old school British.
Maybe, but he's an orange cunt.
Embrace.
And he starts snapping bleeding fingers. And nobody else is doing that same move, and they're all doing this flippy shit. It took me out of the illusion. That might work well one-on-one as a cheeky little sly gimmick, but when 3 men are lying on the ground waiting for their go, it's like, you're in. No, I'm not. I just ran into this other guy's head and I'm knocked out for 2 minutes so he can bash him. It was an anticlimax to the card.
Here's a question for all three of you lads then. Do you think that, like, with the devastation and the kind of like the dominance of Cross, do you think that, like, that's something, just going on what Jay was saying there, obviously, do you think H is interested in making all of us, underneath guys look weak to build this guy up, or do you think it's coming from up above? He's our next guy.
I think it went the other way.
You've got to make him look strong, going on Joe's point.
I think it went the other way. I think, if anything, the 4 guys looked really strong and he looked totally out of place, and he was made look kind of weak in that situation, because I thought what they should have done, when we talk already about how less is more and stuff like that, I thought the 4 guys should have been in that match for a number 1 contenders match, and he should have walked out onto the ramp at the end with the belt, then meet the next guy probably at the Great American Bash one that they're doing or something like that.
There was no need for him to be in that match, actually.
I think it really exposed me. And what the problem is? It's not that I'm not a Karrion Kross fan. The problem is I think he's kind of nearly ready for the big roster as quick as it's been. Yeah. And I think he looks out of place because those 4 guys in there are absolutely cream of the crop and unbelievable.
Yes, he's wrestling Raw and they're wrestling NXT.
Yeah, but he's also like, when you put in a guy there, like when you've got that talent in the ring and you put a kind of a strong, monster brawler in there kind of thing, you know what I mean? It kind of exposes you a little bit to be a little bit one-dimensional. And if you're the champion, it kind of exposes you. Whereas if you look at the likes of, say, an Adam Cole, who's absolute gold in there, Pete Dunne, who's getting better all the time, Gargano, what you're getting with Gargano, Kyle O'Reilly, outstanding, These are guys who bring a different kind of element to the business, who even for a big guy like Karrion Kross, they can just take his head off with a move anyway if they wanted. And I think, as Jay said, the match did come a little bit contrived, but I just thought in the match, I thought Kross stuck out, and not stuck out because he was the champion, and not stuck out because he took the boys out. I think it was all, I just didn't think he should be in there. I think the 4 boys should have been in a number 1 contenders main event.
No, not even a number 1. A fucking tourney situation. Brackets. Let them all wrestle equally, and then get down to 2 men, and then let the 1 man who wins that match hop into the fucking match. Yeah. If you want to put 1 man over as being a strong son of a bitch and groom your upper mid to the ascension over a 6-month period, show 1 man going through 3 people to get a fucking run at the champ. But let me believe that this guy can go all night if he needs to get to the gold.
I just think Kross, with his entrance and his look and his ring gear and Scarlett Bordeaux and all that, I think he kind of like, he's so ready nearly for that main roster. And I know sometimes that doesn't happen and it doesn't work out right. We've seen it with Shinsuke and Aleister Black.
Yeah, but I don't think.
But do you know what it is? And just on that point, I just wanted to make. I think the problem is for NXT is a real wrestlers wrestling show.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's the thing with him. He's an absolute star. Don't get me wrong. I'm not reducing his stardom in any way. But I think if you got Karrion Kross maybe against, say, a Seth Rollins or something like that, I think it has a different kind of dynamic than if you have him in there with those 4 guys.
When he gets up there, you know what's going to happen. Like, Brock is obviously coming back.
Do we though?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Brock is going up there. Brock is going to be coming back. Karrion Kross isn't exactly going to go in and take the title off, Roman Reigns. Is he going to be stuck in that mid-card level? Because, look, you just saw a lad get sacked a couple of weeks ago. It was bigger than all of them.
I think he's coming back. I think that was a fucking work. Now, after they're bringing back a Joe today, sorry for interrupting you, Ian. I think they're using certain seconds as again, tinfoil hat on. But I don't think they're going to let him go. I think now looking at the bringing back of Joe by H putting the foot down, I think they're making new kind of.
Well, that's because he wants him back in NXT.
Yeah, no, he does, and he's brought him back as a brilliant caveat to his role as an announcer. He can fight when he's pushed. We know what that means, and it's brilliant.
I just think with that match the other night, I just think we've had Karrion Kross with the 2 wins over Finn Balor. Is it a stretch to think that Karrion Kross could be 4 other versions in one match of a Finn Balor, if you like? At that level of talent, you know what I mean? And that's really where I was coming from. And I'm not saying those 4 guys match up, but if you look, Adam Cole can hold his own in there with Finn Balor, so can Coyle, so can any of these guys. They've done it already, you know what I mean? He's bet Balor twice and the title and stuff like that. Now he's going into a match where he has to be potentially 4 lads who are kind of nearly at that Balor level, if you like, if not at that Balor level.
On the ascension.
And I think that is such a stretch to make me believe that, you know. And then again, they couldn't have him losing, as Jay said, because they're trying to book him strong. He's only had the belt a short time. He's only been there a short time, you know what I mean?
What Ian said.
Yeah. So I just really think he kind of stuck out in the match, and not for the right reason. I think there was too much talent in there on display in what we call a wrestling show. And he was there mainly as a brawler and a monster and that kind of thing. And I
took away from the other 4 lads.
Joe,
it took away from their momentum. I agree.
You booked that one, Joe, obviously, because I know you do like to kind of look at it from that narrative.
Yeah, look, I think Kross is deadly. I really like him. But I do think, Ian, I think you're right. I think it's Vinnie Mac that has the hard on for him more so than
he has a blonde.
Triple H. Yeah. I think he's a serious hard on for him.
He's a package.
I know when he was an Impact, there were rumors flying around that Vinnie Mac was mad, really hot on him, and wanted him badly. So I do think he's a Vinnie Mac project more so than Triple H project. Yeah. But I disagree with you, Niall and Jay. I have to say I don't think Kross stood out that badly. I thought I really enjoyed him in that match, not as much as I enjoyed some of the other guys, but I don't think he was out of place at all, personally. And I think he played his role perfectly.
I'm not taking away from him as a star. I'm taking away from the whole setup as a whole. I think the value in 4 men who are ready and equally as able as each other on a very high tier of professional wrestling, to have them step aside to be outshone by somebody who's already groomed for the next step, the values the product as a whole in the bigger picture, as opposed to one night versus 4 men. These men who we're supposed to believe are a viable threat have been literally that's what I took from it. But I don't I don't watch the weekly, so that's as a layperson who doesn't watch TNE either. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, no, but I think that was the point, Jay, is that he swept them aside. I think that's what they were trying to do. To get him over that strong that he just, he could beat 4
It's counterproductive to what we had already seen tonight as a pay-per-view.
If you're going on Joe's point, and I'm going to kind of stick up for Joe here, if you're going on Joe's point that he's going to, within the next month or so, you're going to see him step aside, because don't forget, roster movement has happened at the top, so there's places there. If it's a case that he's just going to hand over the belt saying, I've got bigger fish to fry kind of deal, that could very much lend itself to the point that it's not going to be a case that he's just going to be smashing lads forever, and it's going to go back into a tournament then for the vacant belt kind of thing.
I can only tell you, as a man who has never seen most of these men wrestle often, what I was told as a fan from the screen.
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
That's fair,
and that's how it came across. I can try a match where 4 men were leveled by a man who's already complete package and going up eventually.
Yeah, and I think Ian makes a good point. I don't think Kross can stay there much longer.
No.
He's swept aside all the big names, and I think he just I think he's 6 months max down there now. I think 6 months is actually too long.
Way too long. Yeah.
I think Ian's right. I think another month or two he just goes, there's your title. Goodbye.
Well, the problem is now he's forced his hand. How do you book him now? He's after taking out basically the absolute cream.
The next 6 months of his competition.
Yeah.
In the place where he's holding the belt.
All in one match.
Yeah, that's what I think.
An analogy from Nigel Tufnell from to put some light in the situation, to steal a Nigel Tufnell Spinal Tap reference. You're at 10, you're at 10, you're at 10. Where can you go from there? He can't go to 11
Raw.
because if he goes to 11 in NXT, then you're just literally flatlining lads every single week. So I think the only natural progression is for him to go up there. They package him fucking, you know, the way Vince sees fit, for right or wrong, that's the way it's going to work out with Vince. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And see what the writers have up there for him. But you definitely cannot keep him there because, I mean, you've got, as you mentioned, the 4 guys now have all lost to him. Balor, who was their most successful champion. Well, I mean, the 4 in that particular match.
Sorry,
5 including Balor, yeah.
The Demon hasn't lost to him.
Well, I mean, that is a different angle. You know what I mean, Jay? And that is a really, really good point. That is a really good point also. I mean, we know H loves that. So maybe that's why Balor has gone away for a while too. I mean, look, that's a great angle. I love it. I love that idea. I just think Joe was right. Also, I do think that I think excuse me, I think it's a case that that, you know, Vince wants him up there yesterday.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm with you, and I think Vince is mad to get hold of him. And I think you're right, Ian. I think a month or 2 max. He just goes, here's your title, I'm off. And because because I think if he loses that title, it'll take away from him moving up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because of the way they're booking him. I think that he has to give it up.
See, that
there is a counter to that. If he drops that strap and those 4 men who he just bet are in the mix for that strap, it devalues the NXT product, does it not? No, because how that match is booked.
Well, unless
the way Vince used to want to do it was that, like, he didn't think that all eyes were on NXT, so you could have Kevin Owens drop the belt to Finn Balor, and then Kevin Owens would go up. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was always the way you do the favor on the way out. You know, that was Vince's way of teaching the time honored.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Ian, but
in this case, I don't think it's the case anymore with this particular.
No, but Cross is just. I think he's a different guy to Kevin Owens. The way they're booking him as this absolute machine.
He's going up strong.
I think he's going up strong. I don't think he's losing that belt.
Yeah, no, he's not going to do 2 years in the mid card. He's going up into the mix.
I think on your point there, Jay, I think the only way he loses this, if he's losing the title, is in a triple threat or a fatal 4-way where he doesn't get paid, or else he.
I agree. That's good booking.
Or else he gives it up, because I don't see him tapping or taking a 3 count.
Well, if we look at the history of Raw over the last fucking, not even recent history, every week, again, I understand kayfabe is still alive and well, whether the smart marks want to admit it or not, and we hear weekly by the fucking news shows that Vince is unhappy with his product and he's unhappy with Raw, and he keeps coming in at the last minute and rewriting the whole fucking show himself. Blah 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 blah. I believe in some, I believe in others, I don't believe, but he is definitely going up into a mix. There's no question about that. He's not going to go up and do a traditional spend 2 years working his way up the card. The product's already there. The entrance is great. He's got fucking Scarlett, is that her name?
Yeah.
He's got her in tow. The pair of them work well together. There's a charisma. He looks well. He goes well. None of that's in question. So he's definitely going up into the mix. My worry is the clash of what his exit does to what it leaves behind, if you know what I mean. Like from a psychological perspective.
It's nearly like a run out of time forced kind of legacy build, feathers in the hat kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Slap a sticker on him, call him cooked, and send him out to the table.
Yeah. But it's like we don't have time for you to beat all these guys over these months, so we're going to throw a load of them in there, and you can have a win over these guys pretty quick and stuff like that. Because he's gone up onto the main roster. He's beaten half of Undisputed Era, who absolutely held down the show for 3 years, half of DIY, which is unbelievable, and he's also beaten Pete Dunne, who's like the hottest guy in wrestling really at the moment when you think about it, like after, on the back of the Balor stuff, you know. So like, I mean,
and he crushed Balor, as you said, like he absolutely crushed him. So
yeah. But he's going up. There's no question about it. The boss man has the hard on for the whole complete package. It's arguably one of the first, with the exception of Rhea, it's one of the first packages that he's seen. The boss has seen. It's like, I want exactly what you've made.
It was kind of like he nearly said, "Listen, we nearly want him for SummerSlam, so get him past all these guys." make sure he has wins over all these guys and he's going up super strong or something like that. But you've only got 8 weeks. You've only 8 weeks to do it.
It's a shame. You know what? He's the kind of guy who, if again, it's been a strange year for the logic of wrestling and its progression. But he's almost a guy you'd send straight into a rumble to get a fucking fluke win or get a outside chance win and throw him straight into the mix. He doesn't have to win the belt. I mean, we already know that there's 2 men up there holding big gold that the boss is strong on, and he wants them to be fucking monsters. Now, whether he's going into the big gold mix or whether he's going into an interim mix, because they're also cooking them underbelts real well upstairs. I mean, the US title on Sheamus has been strong. We haven't seen those little, the second tier titles as strong as they've been booked in this weird fucking year of televised pro wrestling. So where he goes to will be interesting. I don't see him going straight into the big mix. Why would you smash something that you're that hot on so quick? Let him ascend slowly. It'll only take a year. But get into a rumble strong. Maybe drop an interim strap up there in the big company and then go straight into the mix.
That's where they're going to drop the ball on him, I think, realistically. That's how I foresee this. This is my own personal opinion. He'll go in and he'll be expected to have those matches in those kind of, underneath title matches, as you mentioned, Jay.
Yeah, second tiers. Yeah.
And I do think some of his stuff will be exposed in that sense under the lights. And then they'll just probably be turned off because I can't see champion material yet. And I say that word yet.
I agree. And you know what? Logic would say let him develop into what he wants. But how often do we see somebody taking the boss's eye so quickly?
But you can't do that now, though, because you can't let him develop in NXT because, as we've said...
No, he's done. He's cooked.
He's done everything. He's cooked the whole freezer in the oven at once, and there's no food left in there now. So that's it. Like, he's had his fill. So now he needs to go off into the sunset and go up to the big leagues. And the problem is, as Jay likes to use the analogy a lot, is there's a lot of, he's going up to a big shark tank there.
It's a big shark tank. It's a motherfucking aquarium.
I mean, even if he gets into a program as a heel with the likes of Drew McIntyre, is he coming out of that looking stronger than Drew? Is he coming
look at the second tier.
Stronger than Walter?
Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? Send him over to England or something and get a secondary title over there too.
I'm trying to think what they can do, lads, and I'm not.
Well, there's probably a psychology way of working them with Drew or something like that, isn't it? That doesn't expose him insofar as if you're trying to work him with an Adam Cole or you're trying to work him with a Kyle O'Reilly or a Johnny Gargano, where
he needs to wrestle bigger men that can work without showing.
But that's what I'm saying.
Work in a sort of a phased, slower, methodical, psychological way where he won't be as exposed, as opposed to like if you've Adam Cole flying around the ring at 100 miles an hour, and this lad's in the middle going, he doesn't even know where to turn at times. You know what I mean? So
I'd agree.
I think it might work.
That's a great point, Noel.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Well, he is ascending to a company now that has secondary titles on beef. He's gone up to a place now where Sheamus is a respected title holder.
Hey,
where fucking
there's only one beef.
Hey, yeah, mad cow. No, there was a throw around situation there maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago where the secondary level straps would have been just fucking confetti. Now they're around waists that have pedigree that were men who formerly held big titles. Like it's not the same company that it was 3 years ago. This long slow cook. I mean, if he's going up there to those secondary titles, they're not around people who you would have sneered at for being fucking 165 pounds with a few hamburgers in their belly on the night. You've got Sheamus, you've got fucking New Day, fucking
Big E.
You've got men who aren't wearing gold who are in the stratosphere of the ascension as well. It's not like he's going up to, okay, there's 2 big men who are dominant.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing else for me to go through. Like, those secondary titles aren't secondary anymore because of the prestige on the first level titles now. Like, those men are being considered for Brock fucking Lesnar. That's 5 fucking matches a year. They're away now. I mean, if he's going to do a year, he's going to do a year up there with men who are wearing secondary titles who aren't chumps anymore. They're legacy veterans. They're men who are future Hall of Famers. It's not like it was 5 years ago. Like, there's a slow cook storytelling in WWE right now It's probably lost on the internet fan and the immediate make everybody a champion or I hate everything. Like, you know, the story's there to be told.
Yeah, Cross versus Sheamus for the US title match on a pay-per-view is something we buy into.
And to be fair, Sheamus is that kind of lad that can be collateral damage and not lose.
He'll lose none of his prestige. He'll lose none of his place.
Legacy is
So
intact.
that does make sense. But look, I suppose that's as far as we can go with
Absolutely. That. Well, lads, absolute pleasure as always doing these reviews. And of course, coming out of all the other stuff we had to review, it's nice and refreshing to review a wrestling show,
Wrestling is back.
You're setting them up for what's to come next.
Oh, I tell you, we're in for a hell of a weekend. This has been your NXT Takeover in your house review.
This week's happy show.
It's coming, don't worry, the wave is coming. 21st of this month, the wave is coming. Yeah, absolutely. Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube for the shows. Head over there, subscribe, like, share, comment. Let us know your feedback. Tell us what you think. Audio versions of the show on Anchor. And as always, if you want to contact the show, you'll get us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, the Podmen. Cheers, lads. Appreciate it.
Listen to Tin Lizzie.